you ready for this? Because this might be the most important thing you'll hear today. You are one sentence away from making a narcissist afraid of you forever. And I don't mean scared like a horror movie. I mean scared of the one thing that cripples their entire strategy. You no longer playing their game. You've probably been manipulated, gaslit, twisted into emotional knots, all while wondering, is it me? It's not you. It's them, and today I'm giving you the sentence that stops it cold. This isn't about revenge, this is about freedom. Because when you use this sentence, it sends a message louder than any screaming match. You can't control me anymore. And if you've ever felt like you're walking on eggshells, doubting yourself, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster, this is why you have to stay with me until the end. Because once I give you that sentence, you won't just understand narcissists, you'll disarm them. You'll own the room. You'll finally feel safe in your own mind again. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to give you tools that change lives, and this one will. So here's the deal. We're going to walk through how narcissists get inside your head, why you let it happen, and then how one sentence flips the entire dynamic. No fluff. No just be nice. This is about taking your power back. Ready? Let's go. The power of one sentence can change everything, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist, someone who thrives on control, manipulation, and emotional chaos. Most people don't realize that narcissists aren't fueled by love or even respect. They are fueled by control. Your attention, your reactions, your confusion, that's their fuel. But the second you stop reacting the way they expect, the second you shift the energy and refuse to play their game, they begin to panic. And that's exactly where your power lies, not in fighting back, not in trying to explain yourself, but in breaking their script with one sentence. A sentence that tells them clearly, calmly, and firmly, I'm not available for this anymore. Why is this sentence so powerful? Because it's not defensive, it's not emotional, it's not aggressive, it's not even up for debate. Narcissists thrive in emotional chaos. They want you confused, hurt, and chasing their approval. That's where they feel strong. That's how they control the narrative. But when you calmly, confidently, and clearly state your boundary without any emotional hook, you cut the cord, you flip the script, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is terrifying to a narcissist. Because suddenly they don't know what to do with you. You're not reacting, you're not engaging, you're not trying to fix it. You're not explaining yourself, you're just done and they can't handle it. This one sentence works because it bypasses every tactic they use. Gaslighting doesn't matter. You're not debating reality. Guilt, tripping, irrelevant. You're not trying to prove you're a good person. Silent treatment, fine. You're already gone emotionally. The moment you say, I'm not available for this anymore, what you're really saying is, I'm not willing to shrink myself, doubt myself, or hurt myself just to keep the peace. You're saying, I don't owe you my energy. You're reclaiming your identity in the face of someone who only ever wanted to mold it for their benefit. The thing is, narcissists train you to forget who you are. They do it slowly, with little digs. Backhanded compliments, shifting blame, twisting facts, they condition you to second. Guess yourself. So over time, you start walking on eggshells, filtering your words, tiptoeing around their moods, trying to avoid setting them off. You become smaller and smaller just to maintain the illusion of peace. But there is no peace with a narcissist, only control, only survival. So when you say this sentence, you're not just setting a boundary. You're undoing all of that conditioning in one moment. You're reminding yourself and them who's actually in charge of your life, and don't get it twisted. They will react, maybe with rage, maybe with guilt, maybe with playing the victim, but that's okay. Their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your only job is to stay rooted in that truth. I'm not available for this anymore. And then back it up, no arguing. No explaining, no overthinking, just stand there, grounded, clear, done. That is where your power lies, not in what you say next, but in what you don't say, in your silence, in your decision, in your refusal to dance their dance anymore. They will feel it, and yes, they will fear it, because a narcissist's worst nightmare isn't being yelled at or confronted. It's being irrelevant to you. It's losing their grip. And that's exactly what happens the moment you say this sentence and mean it. What narcissists fear the most isn't what you think. It's not confrontation. It's not exposure. It's not even rejection. What truly terrifies a narcissist is the moment they realize they no longer have control over you. That moment when their manipulative tactics no longer work. That's the fear they can't shake. Because for a narcissist, control equals power. When they can dictate how you feel, how you react, how you think about yourself, they feel invincible. But the second you stop giving them that power, the second you stop responding the way they expect, their entire identity begins to crack. Control isn't just their strategy, it's their oxygen, and when you cut it off, they panic. Narcissists are wired to dominate interactions. They play subtle games of emotional warfare, criticize you in public, praise you in private, rewrite history, make you feel guilty for their mistakes, and twist every disagreement until you're the one apologizing. All of this is about control. They condition you to doubt yourself so much that you start questioning your instincts, even your reality. You stop trusting your own voice and start looking to them for validation, permission, and worth. That's the trap, that's the game, and they are excellent at it. Until one day you change the rules, you stop reacting, you stop engaging, you see the manipulation for what it is. That's when fear sets in for them. Not because you're attacking them, but because you're no longer dancing to their tune. The moment they realize they can't provoke you, confuse you, or make you feel small anymore, they begin to lose grip. That's the kind of power they're terrified of, because now they have to face what's underneath all that manipulation, insecurity, emptiness, fragile ego. Narcissists build their identity through control of others. Without that control, they feel exposed, they feel irrelevant, and nothing scares them more than that. That's why they often escalate their behavior when they sense they're losing control. They might love, bomb you, beg for forgiveness, or flip into a full-blown rage. But none of it is about love or remorse. It's all about regaining power. That's why your calm refusal to engage becomes the one thing they can't handle. You don't have to scream. You don't have to prove anything. Your peace is louder than their chaos. So what do they fear the most? Your emotional independence, your ability to walk away and not look back, your refusal to be manipulated by guilt, fear, or obligation. They fear your clarity, your boundaries, your healing. Because once you're no longer under their influence, they lose everything they were feeding on. They lose the reaction, the attention, the drama. They lose access to your emotional energy, and without it, they're left to face themselves. And that's a mirror they can't bear to look into. The science behind narcissistic behavior reveals something deeply unsettling, but incredibly freeing once you understand it. Narcissists are not driven by confidence, they are driven by insecurity. Behind the grandiosity, the arrogance, the need to be the center of attention is a fragile self-image that's constantly under threat. They build a false self, a carefully curated mask that says, "I'm superior, I'm special, I deserve more." But this mask is a shield, and underneath it is someone who feels deeply inadequate. That's why they work so hard to control how others see them. That's why they need constant validation, and that's why they react so violently, emotionally or psychologically, when that image is threatened. Understanding this helps you stop taking their behavior personally. It's not about you. It's about the image they need to protect. Narcissistic traits often begin developing in childhood, sometimes as a defense mechanism against trauma, neglect, or inconsistent parenting. A child who feels unseen or unsafe might develop narcissistic tendencies as a way to create an identity that demands attention and control. But instead of growing out of it, they double down on it. As adults, they cling to this inflated identity and use manipulation, charm, and control to protect it. Their entire world becomes a performance, and anyone close to them is expected to play their part. The moment you stop applauding, stop agreeing, or start asserting your own boundaries, you become a threat, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you've disrupted their illusion of control. Narcissists use a range of psychological tactics to maintain that control: gaslighting, blame, shifting, triangulation, and love bombing. These are not random. These are calculated strategies rooted in psychology to erode your sense of self and boost theirs. Gaslighting, for example, works by making you question your reality. If they can convince you that your memory is faulty or your emotions are overreactions, then you become easier to manipulate. Blame shifting allows them to avoid accountability. No matter what happens, it's always your fault. Even when you catch them in a lie, they twist it back on you. This keeps them in the position of power and you in the position of constantly trying to prove yourself. Triangulation, where they bring a third party into the dynamic, often to make you feel jealous or inadequate, is another tool to maintain superiority. And then there's love bombing, overwhelming you with affection, gifts, and attention to win you over, only to withdraw it just as quickly. These are behavioral patterns that follow a very predictable cycle: idealization, devaluation, and discard. When you understand that this cycle is not your fault, but a reflection of a deeply insecure person trying to feel powerful, you can stop engaging in it. You can recognize it for what it is: emotional manipulation masked as love. Understanding the science of narcissism doesn't excuse their behavior, but it empowers you. It gives you the language to name what's happening. It helps you detach emotionally. It allows you to step back, observe the pattern, and decide, I don't have to participate in this anymore. The one sentence that will make a narcissist fear you forever is simple, direct, and quietly powerful. I don't need you. Say it, mean it, live it, and everything changes, because that sentence doesn't just challenge their ego, it threatens the entire foundation of how they control people. Narcissists survive by making others emotionally dependent on them. They lure you in with charm, hook you with affection, and keep you on edge with unpredictable cycles of validation and criticism. It's all designed to make you crave their attention, their approval, and their version of reality. But when you say, I don't need you, you shatter that illusion. You take away the one thing they can't function without. Your emotional dependence. To a narcissist, being needed is power. If you need them, they feel superior. If you rely on their opinion to feel good about yourself, they control your self-worth. If you constantly seek their attention or fear their rejection, they've won. That's how they keep you in line. But the moment you stop needing them emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they lose all leverage. You become unshakable. You're no longer reactive, no longer desperate for their approval, no longer trapped in their manipulative web. That terrifies them. Because now they're looking at someone they can't intimidate, someone they can't confuse, someone they can't manipulate with praise or punishment. That sentence is not just a statement, it's a declaration of freedom. And here's the deeper truth: narcissists know they're not truly lovable. That's why they put on a mask, why they create illusions, why they demand constant admiration. They fear abandonment because deep down they expect it. They fear not being needed because they know, beneath the ego, they have nothing real to offer. So when you say, I don't need you, it's like holding up a mirror to all the things they're desperately trying to avoid: your irrelevance, exposure, and emptiness. It forces them to confront the terrifying idea that someone could love themselves enough to walk away without looking back, without apology, and without regret. But this sentence only works when it's real. You can't just say it. You have to believe it. You have to do the work to heal, to rebuild your confidence, to reconnect with who you are outside of their influence. You have to shift from needing them to choosing you. That's the power. That's what sets you free, because narcissists don't fear confrontation. They feed off drama. They don't fear being hated. Negative attention is still attention, but what they absolutely cannot tolerate is being irrelevant. Being ignored, being cut off by someone who is calm, clear, and completely in control of their own identity. When you say, "I don't need you," and you live like it, you become their greatest fear, because you're everything they pretend to be, but can never actually become: whole, secure, and free. Narcissists don't start by being obvious. They don't walk into your life waving a flag that says, "I'm here to manipulate you." No, they start with charm, flattery, attention, things that feel good. They hook you by making you feel seen and valued. And if you've got empathy, compassion, or even a little self-doubt, you're the perfect target, because what narcissists are truly skilled at is identifying the people who are emotionally open, people who want connection. People who care, then they use that empathy as a weapon, they twist it, they manipulate it, and before you even realize what's happening, you're stuck in a loop of trying to please someone who can never actually be pleased. They do this slowly. It's not one big moment. It's death by 1,000 cuts, a joke that stings, a compliment with a hidden insult, a moment of affection followed by cold silence. They give just enough to keep you hoping for more, and then they pull back. It creates a cycle where you're constantly questioning what went wrong, trying harder, adjusting your behavior to avoid triggering their mood, and that's exactly where they want you off balance, doubting yourself. Because when you're unsure of your own thoughts and feelings, you start relying on theirs, and that's when they've got you. Over time, you stop recognizing yourself. You used to speak freely, now you hesitate. You used to trust your instincts, now you overthink everything. You used to feel secure, now you're anxious all the time. Why? Because narcissists are masters of emotional erosion. They chip away at your confidence, your clarity, and your sense of reality. They twist facts, deny things they said, make you feel like you're the crazy one. And when you try to call them out, they either explode in anger or act like the victim. It's exhausting. It's confusing. And if you don't understand what's happening, you'll blame yourself. You'll think you're not doing enough, that if you just explain better, love harder, or stay calm, things will go back to how they were at the beginning. But that beginning was a trap. That version of them wasn't real. It was a performance to hook you. The real version is the one you're dealing with now, the one who makes you feel small, confused, and emotionally drained. So many people stay stuck in these dynamics for years because they're waiting for that early version of the narcissist to come back. But here's the truth, that version doesn't exist. What exists now is someone who feeds on your emotional reactions. Someone who treats your love as a weakness and your kindness as a tool. And until you see that clearly, you'll keep falling for the same tricks. You'll keep rationalizing the mistreatment. You'll keep hoping that next time will be different. But it won't, not because you're not good enough, but because you're being manipulated by someone who has no intention of changing. The science behind narcissistic behavior reveals something deeply unsettling but incredibly freeing once you understand it. Narcissists are not driven by confidence, they are driven by insecurity. Behind the grandiosity, the arrogance, the need to be the center of attention is a fragile self-image that's constantly under threat. They build a false self, a carefully curated mask that says, "I'm superior, I'm special, I deserve more." But this mask is a shield, and underneath it is someone who feels deeply inadequate. That's why they work so hard to control how others see them. That's why they need constant validation, and that's why they react so violently, emotionally or psychologically, when that image is threatened. Understanding this helps you stop taking their behavior personally. It's not about you. It's about the image they need to protect. Narcissistic traits often begin developing in childhood, sometimes as a defense mechanism against trauma, neglect, or inconsistent parenting. A child who feels unseen or unsafe might develop narcissistic tendencies as a way to create an identity that demands attention and control. But instead of growing out of it, they double down on it. As adults, they cling to this inflated identity and use manipulation, charm, and control to protect it. Their entire world becomes a performance, and anyone close to them is expected to play their part. The moment you stop applauding, stop agreeing, or start asserting your own boundaries, you become a threat, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you've disrupted their illusion of control. Narcissists use a range of psychological tactics to maintain that control: gaslighting, blame, shifting, triangulation, and love bombing. These are not random. These are calculated strategies rooted in psychology to erode your sense of self and boost theirs. Gaslighting, for example, works by making you question your reality. If they can convince you that your memory is faulty or your emotions are overreactions, then you become easier to manipulate. Blame shifting allows them to avoid accountability. No matter what happens, it's always your fault. Even when you catch them in a lie, they twist it back on you. This keeps them in the position of power and you in the position of constantly trying to prove yourself. Triangulation, where they bring a third party into the dynamic, often to make you feel jealous or inadequate, is another tool to maintain superiority. And then there's love bombing, overwhelming you with affection, gifts, and attention to win you over, only to withdraw it just as quickly. These are behavioral patterns that follow a very predictable cycle: idealization, devaluation, and discard. When you understand that this cycle is not your fault, but a reflection of a deeply insecure person trying to feel powerful, you can stop engaging in it. You can recognize it for what it is: emotional manipulation masked as love. Understanding the science of narcissism doesn't excuse their behavior, but it empowers you. It gives you the language to name what's happening. It helps you detach emotionally. It allows you to step back, observe the pattern, and decide, I don't have to participate in this anymore. So here's the truth laid bare. Narcissists thrive on your need for them, your emotional reactions, your constant efforts, your hope that one day they'll see your worth. But the second you see through the game, the second you realize that their power was never real, only borrowed from your belief in it, that's when everything changes. The sentence, I don't need you, is more than just words. It's the line you draw in the sand. It's the boundary that says, I choose me. And when you say it, not from anger, not from ego, but from absolute clarity, you reclaim your life, you shut down the manipulation, you step off the emotional roller coaster. You begin to heal because the person you needed all along was never them, it was you. Your strength, your voice, your freedom. They'll fear that sentence forever. Not because it hurts them, but because it reminds them that they can't control you anymore. And that's the most terrifying truth a narcissist will ever face, so let them hear it, let them feel it, and then walk away calm, strong, and free, because now you're untouchable.